War. It's fantastic.
Hello, and welcome to the Warp Shelf. I'm Frank Duran.
I'm Deshaun Vasquez.
And today, we're talking about war. War. It never changes. We're getting into what are some of the best war movies out there. This is a topic that I'm passionate about. War movies are definitely some of my favorite movies. I think it can be very impactful when we're covering something that is as tragic as war. And I think that it also has to do with my whole family has been in military my whole life. And growing up, I was like, man, I want to be part of the military. And then, my father went overseas, and I was like, well, that's fucking terrible to do to anybody and their family. And I was like, never mind then. And didn't ever, had a problem with authority ever since. And so I definitely couldn't be a soldier now. But it's something that, I grew up that my whole family loves war movies. So it's a big line of oh, these are great movies. Here, let's watch these, even though they are not appropriate for your age, young Frank. And I'm just like, okay. I'm like, that's fine.
You're definitely more inundated in the genre than I ever was. War films it wasn't a genre that I actively avoided or anything, but it was just one of those things where just I hear this is good and I put it on.
It's pretty good.
But it was never a huge genre for me growing up. And even then, sometimes it's one of those things oh man, a war movie. Yeah. I'm sure it's good. I just got to be in the mood.
You got to be in the mood. It is, you're am I ready for the realness? Am I ready to see a lot of dead bodies? It's kind of you're just all right. And basically, we want to kind of get down to some of the best war movies, because some of these war movies not only are the best war movies, they're some of the best movies ever made. And that's kind of what I feel passionate about this genre about is that it really can boil down to showing us a real human side to our nature. It's able to use art to show this really dark, but also some light in in a very shitty situation.
It's the same basic principle as a horror film. Yeah, where you get to inhabit these dangerous situations from a place of comfort and safety, but you sort of get to project yourself onto it.
Yeah, so it's definitely a genre that I feel even in today's age, we obviously had 1917 last year, which we watched today to get hyped up for this episode. So we'll be talking some in-depth 1917 in a wee bit. But I kind of want to talk about my biggest elephant in the room for the war genre, because when I'm making my top 10 movie list, if I'm making my even top 5, I always, and I'm not talking even just favorites, I'm talking the best, and we'll have a whole podcast about this at some point, but there's a difference for us between favorites and best movies. Yeah. When I'm talking favorites, it's this is movies I really love to watch, they're so much fun, good stuff, great watch, and I could quote every line of it. But then you have...
favoritism tends to have some degree of, guilty pleasure. Yeah. Or something that appeals to you specifically. A good example that I always bring up is that I think Terminator 2 is objectively the better film compared to 1.
But favorite is 1.
My favorite is 1 because it's basically a slasher film with a robot.
Yes, which you're empirically correct in your statement that 2 is better.
2 is better. But 1 is a slasher movie with a robot, and I grew up loving slasher films.
So you're totally into them.
Yeah.
I really think that when you're talking best movies that really show off not only how great the art of film is, but how great it can show human emotion and human situations and strife, like real moments, moments that make you feel something in your fucking innards. And I think the one of the best movies, if not the best movie ever made, is Apocalypse Now. I know that's going to be people being like, what the fuck, that's an old ass movie, it's slow as shit, and you're just like, no, wait, hold on, go back and watch that movie. That movie is one of the best directed, best acted, best cinematography movies ever.
But Frank, which cut?
Which cut should I watch, Frank? I can't answer that question for you. I like so many of them. I really do.
Are there like 4 now?
4 of them. Yeah. And I've watched 3. I don't think I've seen the latest cut.
The latest one pulled the Blade Runner where they literally called it the final cut.
The final cut. They're like, we're done. We're fucking done.
I'm pretty sure I only watched the theatrical.
I've of course seen theatrical, Redux, and what's the third one? I forget what it's called. But like
too many versions.
Yeah, too many versions. But basically, and that's what's so great about this movie is it's unlike Blade Runner where you made different changes and it ruined the movie or made the movie. Mm-hmm. I love all these different versions. They're all so good, and they really bring something different every time, and it kind of makes you appreciate the movie even further. You know, like it's not one of those where you're like, oh, they took out this, so now it sucks. You're like, oh, that was quite the different take, Francis Ford Coppola. I dig. You're like,
my problem with like eventually watching Redux just to contrast and compare is that I haven't seen the theatrical in so long that I
have to watch the first one
again and. So, a man doesn't want to watch Apocalypse Now twice in a row.
6 hours.
the Apocalypse Now marathon, where it's just different cuts of the same movie.
Sounds like a Madman thing, like a festival that you see out in the woods. They're like, we're going to watch Apocalypse Now.
You'll see me, like, stretching in front of a mirror by the end of it. It's like, I'm back in Saga.
I'm back in Saga. I really mean it, that it might not be my favorite movie, because sometimes that's The Dark Knight.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Sometimes ain't nothing wrong with that. It's just because I fucking love Batman. Like, I'm unashamed of it. Like,
you got a fucking problem with that?
You got a fucking problem with that? No, and I get it. It's not the best movie. That's what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. The Dark Knight is not the best movie. And I would say, but if you were like talking about movies that really push the genre, not only the genre, but art in itself, it's Apocalypse Now. Strictly because the everything in the entire movie excels. It's a big old flex all over by everybody.
That entire movie is like a reflection of its own like harrowing, chaotic production.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like you feel it, you know? Like, you feel this rawness from it that seems
There's just, like, a madness that permeates it, which makes it definitely one of the more, like, tiring in the genre, because it's very... You're just...
in the madness.
In the madness the entire time.
Or, as they would like to say, into darkness. Because if you didn't know, that's based off of a book, you know? Like, if you ever were in grade school and they made you read Into Darkness, go watch Apocalypse Now and be like, oh, this is very similar.
What's a book? Does that predate VHS?
Yes, it does.
Ah.
but maybe Betamax.
Oh shit, Betamax.
No, but I'm telling you, Into the Heart of Darkness is the name of the book. And I read it in school. I don't know if you did.
No.
We read it in school, and it's this story of a British officer having to go into this deep forest to pull out a guy, and he's done exactly what happens in Apocalypse Now.
He's gone native. And I love it because I love this movie for a lot of reasons, but it's so great because it's also adapting that story. You know, like, we have this whole background of the Vietnam War adapting this story that was just it wasn't really a war story, you know? Like, it was more of a, like, oh, I have to go into the jungle to find this guy. Like a rescue operation as opposed to a war film.
And yes, they get into, like, what happens when you're alone, and it gets into what loneliness is and what that can do to a man, and, like, and what it can do when you're in the woods and the fucking woods talk to you. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, and it's definitely... It's so cool the way they are able to adapt that story so well, and also like make it almost a period piece, and then you know, like, and also change it so it's, you know, talking about what war does to a man instead of just what loneliness does to a man, which, you know, like, war forces this solitude on him, you know, like, this, like,
Martin Sheen and Marlon Brando's like performances in Apocalypse Now are like the things that are like permanently burned into your mind specifically.
It's true. I will always say I love The Godfather, but Marlon Brando in Apocalypse Now is peak. Like, absolute, like, I mean, On the Waterfront, he's fucking fantastic. Yeah. I will always give On the Waterfront is some of his best stuff. But Apocalypse Now, come on. Like, it's astounding. You're like, what the fuck?
The amount of times that I quote whenever if I'm like watching a movie with my buddies and something like harrowing happens, sometimes at random I just love going, the horror. The horror. I'll be playing like a game with my buddies and if we see like dead bodies, if we're playing like a death match or something, and you see the destruction around you, let's just go, the horror. The horror.
So like, if we're talking best war movies, this is for me unquestionably it. Like, because it really does so much for everything that is film, you know, like, and that I really love that about the movie. Now,
should we talk about its direct competition? The one everyone always talks about?
I mean,
they always compare it.
They always have to. Yeah, you kind of have to. Is Platoon. Platoon. Platoon with, obviously, so we have Martin Sheen in Apocalypse Now, and then we have Charlie Sheen, his son, in a Platoon. And that's immediately why you connect the two. But there also is the narrating, the and kind of a different war but a different perspective kind of thing, and really kind of showing some real horror of wars type of stuff. I like Platoon.
Platoon is good.
Platoon's good.
You and I kind of are on the same vibe, the same with it. Like, it's good.
It's good. I don't think it's Apocalypse Now level great.
Yeah, I like Oliver Stone's movies.
Yeah, I love an Oliver Stone movie.
But like, Platoon has really never been like one of the stronger ones for me.
No, yeah, I think there's some great performances. I think if you're a Scrubs fan, you're gonna be like, hey, like, when you watch this movie, you're gonna be like, hey, and then you'll watch it and be like, oh, and you'll be like, oh no, but you're. What's his fucking name from Scrubs? I forget his name, but the mean doctor in it, I forget.
God, I just remember his character's name. I hate that. I'm trying not to typecast actors. I know he's like Dr. Cox on the show.
Dr. Cox.
I can't remember what the actor's name is.
Is in this. He's a sergeant. He's he does such a good job. I really enjoy this movie, but I don't ever go back to rewatch it, you know, like definitely one, and kind of like, for me, done, you know, like,
even though I haven't seen like both of them in so long, there are so many things that stick with me with Apocalypse Now. Just like, I always remember the narration. Like I said, I remember Sheen and Brando. I remember other stuff. I love the smell of napalm in the morning. Like, I remember stuff like that because it's just like
James Caan.
It's just so not James Caan. It's Robert Duvall. Robert
Duvall. Fucking get like that. He's so fucking good in that role, and it's such a transformation from what he does in Godfather that from the same director that it just plays so well for me. You know, like, you're like, ooh, you're like, that's nice. That's nice. So I kind of moving on, because there's not much more we could say about Platoon.
I was gonna say that, like, the only thing that I really take away from it is like that actor and the iconic shot, spreading the arms, falling on their knees.
Yeah, it's just kind of like,
but you know,
it's up there. Good, it's up there in the war movies, but I don't know if it's best. You know,
definitely
if we're not talking best. So what we're gonna do now is kind of go down the list of IMDb's, because we're big IMDb fanboys. If you ain't at IMDb, if you're not on Internet Movie Database, if you don't like it and you're more of a Rotten Tomato guy, you're fucking wrong. And we'll do a whole podcast about why you're wrong. But Internet Movie Database, IMDb, is I think the more definitive way to find out your best movies. And we're not going to go by popularity, we're going to go by number of votes. So that means the people have voted the most of what this is the best war movie, you know, like, and we'll kind of go from a ascending order, because like,
and we'll also like pick and choose stuff that we might not necessarily see on the list.
Exactly, that shouldn't be here. But it starts off with Inglorious Basterds, which you just said it earlier before this podcast started. Inglorious Basterds is the most fun you'll have watching a war movie.
Yeah, more or less. Aside from it being a straight comedy like Tropic Thunder, which we can talk about Tropic Thunder afterward or later. But Inglorious Basterds, while it's fun and very funny, is not a straight-up comedy.
No, it flexes its dramatic muscles pretty much right from the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
With the floorboard scene and everything. And that's an iconic scene. I think that's why this sits up here on there, other than bros being like, oh, fuck yeah, I fucking love Inglorious Basterds, man. So fucking funny. Oh. Like, and they go and rate it 10 on Internet Movie Database. You're just like, this is a movie...
The same people who like rate Fight Club so high.
Yeah, right. That's why Fight Club is the top one on here, and you're just like, still, like, you're like, nobody else branched out from another movie yet. But Inglorious Basterds, I think it's one of Tarantino's best, if not his best, because he moves with such purpose throughout the entire film. Every character seems to move into the next scene. It seems to all work extremely well.
You can look at like the evolution of Tarantino's filmography and just see how much not only confident he gets over the course of the films he makes, but also how much he's unafraid to take his time and let moments really sit. Yeah. Like his films start to get like a little slower and slower. That's pretty much the entirety of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's like, it's very slow and tense and methodical. But the problem is it's not juxtaposed with like constant like action or violence, which is part of the reason not as many people liked it as his other stuff, but it's trying to tell something very different. It's a different kind of story.
I think with Inglorious Basterds, they're able to sprinkle in this like real, it's this kind of funny Tarantino-like story where it's like extra violent guys as a special unit going behind enemy lines, you know, like, and of course it becomes funny because it's not real, it's like not a real story at the end, you know, like it gets fantastical, you know, like, and you're like, man, like, you're like, that's fun though, like, but it also has these fantastic dark moments, the real, like, actually getting into how devastating this war was.
Christoph Waltz.
Yeah, and Christoph Waltz.
The movie would still be really good if he wasn't in it.
But god damn.
But he really like just sends it over that threshold.
Yeah, it's a good movie, and then Christoph Waltz makes it a fantastic, great movie. Like he's one of the best finds of like this past couple years.
Hans Landa as a character is like one of like film's like greatest villains, like put to the medium.
No, period.
Yeah.
And end of sentence. Because he immediately comes on screen and he's scary. You know, like, you know this much about him and you're scared.
It's such a subtle scary too.
Yeah.
I'd recommend like the channel Lessons from a Screenplay. He did this whole video just about that opening scene with like the father and the milk and stuff like that. Yeah. And he explained how like on the page, it went on for like 20 pages of just like straight dialogue. Yeah. And he demonstrates how the entire scene is like a power play. How he like subtle things like the way he grabs the daughter's arm and instead of asking for like water or alcohol, he asks for milk. And there's something like slightly sinister and perverse about that. And he has like the comically large pipe. Like it's all little stuff to be like, you're not in charge here, I'm in charge here.
It's funny because it's such a powerful scene, but it screams Tarantino, you know? Like it is all like it's so well timed. It's about the little movements and the little eye tracks and the little touches of everybody, you know, like when anybody touches each other in this entire movie, it's a close-up shot of them touching each other, you know, like because touch is so important here, you know, like it's so it's interesting, you know, like it's a war movie, but like whenever they touch each other, it's like instant violence, you know, like, which is, and it's an interesting thing, you know, like, you're like, dang. That comes down to, I'm saying that, like, you know, like, for the later scenes where they touch each other and it's usually violence, but, like, comes down to the bear Jew. The bear Jew, if he's touching somebody, it's hurting somebody.
You ever heard of the bear Jew?
It's like...
What I like about Inglorious Basterds is that it borders on, like, satirical.
Yes.
It has that sort of Mel Brooks approach to, like, the more we deride and make fun of, like, the party itself, the less power we give it.
Yeah.
If we just turned it into a joke. That was pretty much Mel Brooks' philosophy throughout, like, his career.
Yeah.
Whenever it would come up.
Whenever he
especially for, like, the producers.
Yeah, exactly.
And that sort of, like, same sensibility also, like, permeates Inglorious Basterds.
Yeah.
Especially down to the fact that, like, the ending is fantastical.
Yeah, and it's kind of like it, but you know what? It's satisfying.
Yeah,
you know, like, and that's what I kind of love about it is that this movie. There's a reason why it's so loved. Is that like, and number one on this this list is that it is. It's so good. It's so well done, and it screams Tarantino. You know, like it feels like it's got elements of Reservoir Dogs inside of it. It's got some Pulp Fiction-y elements, and like, and the end is so well timed and paced that it feels like a heist movie at the end.
Definitely,
you know, like
it definitely has like one of my favorite like cuts to credits.
Oh yeah, right. Like
just a close up of the two faces after they carve the swastika into his forehead. You know something, Yudovich? I think this just might be my masterpiece. The fucking smirk and then the cut to credits. It's just so it's juicy. It's so good.
Nice. That's nice. I think one of those shots that sticks with me all the time is the slow motion of Eli Roth running towards the first guard in Hitler's booth. And he's got the gun in his hand and he just punches him and the gun goes off all in slow motion. I love that shot. I think it's so awesome, and it's great. It's so good. This is one of those movies that like it messes you up at a young age because it's so damn good movie. You're just like, fuck, that's good. Like, and you want to create things like that. And I think that's why this is the number one voted one on this list, because it's probably one of the most popular ones that you could show pretty much anybody without it being like, oh, isn't this a dark reflection?
Yeah,
of
and it's also
mankind?
one of those, and it's also one of those ones you can just put on.
Yes,
you don't have to feel like, am I really in the mood to
like
watch?
Am I about to watch Schindler's List?
Yeah.
You know, like which we don't have to talk about Schindler's List. We basically will say it's one of the best movies ever made, but Jesus Christ, is it one of the hardest movies to watch ever? Like, I can't. I watched it one time and I own it, and I can't. I just can't. Like, you know,
I have seen it just the one time.
Yeah, exactly. You can't just watch. Like, you can't. Like, I love the Seinfeld episode where they were like, "You made out in the middle of Schindler's List," like, because it's true. The movie's fucking horrifying. You know, like, I give the movie all its credit. It is a horrifying... Let's talk about more horrifying movies like that. Schindler's List, A Wonderful Life. You ever seen It's a Wonderful Life? Yeah. Fuck, damn that movie. Damn that movie to hell. Like, damn, like, if that's... Life is Beautiful. Life is Beautiful. I'm not Beautiful Life.
I was thinking that you were getting that wrong.
I'm getting the title wrong. Life is Beautiful. 1997. If you want to talk about... Like, I think we've already talked about Jojo's Rabbit before on the podcast. Have we not?
I know I had talked about it when we did like the best of films for like
but now
last
I've
year.
Seen it.
Now
like,
you've seen it.
And if you thought Jojo's Rabbit, you're like, oh fuck, that took a turn right to the fucking gut right there. Oh man, that hurt. You don't know shit, bro. You don't know what hurt feels like until you're fucking watching Life is Beautiful and you're like, wow, this is such a hopeful movie. And then you're like, oh god. Like, and by the end of it, you're just like, Jesus Christ. You're just crying. Like, there's not, like, there's no movie more like those two movies, Schindler's List and Life is Beautiful, are the epitome of great cinema that I can't witness anymore. You know, like I just can't watch it again. You know, like I
could
can't
do
force
it.
myself.
I could do it maybe like one more time.
Life is Beautiful. I could definitely do one more time
for both. Really, just like one more time with people who haven't seen it yet, just so I can force them to watch it because everyone has to watch it at least once. I can bear with it and vicariously sort of experience it again with someone who hasn't seen it yet. But on my own, just like no, I'd rather not.
No, I'd rather not. I really do highly recommend Life is Beautiful. I really, really do. It's one of those movies that it has to be in everyone's top 100 list, and for good reason. And it will make you bawl like a baby, and it will fill you with hope and crush your hope, and just like, but also, make you realize life is beautiful. Like, that's what's so great about the movie. I feel like is that like you may be crushed at the end, just absolutely good, and you'll be like, but at the same time you'll be like, life is so fucking beautiful. Like, you'll just be like, God damn.
It'll certainly teach you how to put a brave face on a shitty situation.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for fucking sure. But that's not even like, I'm jumping around on this list, but that really to me is one of the best made movies also ever made. But I just wouldn't put it in the list of best movies because I couldn't fucking watch it again. Like, just like, Jesus. So next up on the list is probably your grandfather's favorite war movie, everybody's favorite war movie, Saving Private Ryan. I think this had to come up in this list. This had to be brought up and talked about. And to be real, this is a great fucking movie.
Was this the start of like, we gotta go save Matt Damon?
We gotta go save Matt Damon. Yeah, I think this was the start of we gotta save Matt Damon.
There's a lot of we gotta go save Matt Damon movies.
We gotta go to Mars to save Matt Damon.
Yeah, we gotta save Matt Damon from Mars.
We gotta save him from the bottom of the ocean. We gotta save him from... Yes, this is one's like, he's on the wrong side of the war. We gotta go save Matt Damon. As a kid, I loved this movie, and I still do. I still like this movie.
Saving Private Ryan took me a while to watch.
Really?
Yeah, like I hadn't watched it until not too long after we met. Yeah.
I think this is undoubtedly one of the better war movies ever made.
Yeah, and I think it was just one of those things where I'm gonna be moved to watch a horror movie, because it's definitely one of my mom's favorites. Like, she had that on VHS back in the day. And it was always like
when
one
it was
of her
2 VHSs.
Yeah. And she always like loved it. She would put it on.
Yep. No, this is my grandfather's favorite. This is like my other grandfather's favorite. Like, both sides always loved this movie. And to be real, it's Steven Spielberg flexing. Like, it's really showing off that Steven Spielberg knows what film can do.
Think about how many movies have now imitated the battle. It's like the Battle of Normandy.
No, yeah, absolutely. Like,
just like, not only just the cinematography, the way it's staged, but how many fucking war movies after this came out have done the where the ears are blown out and they can't quite hear it, and no one's like, and every time someone's
what you say,
and then it slowly clears up.
We gotta run, and then he gets hit by a bullet, and oh shit! Like, exactly like that. Everybody, even the Game of Thrones did it. Even Game of Thrones did the I can't hear you, like, because of how he was hit by a cannonball. You're like, what? That doesn't make as much noise as a fucking whatever. Fuck it. You're like, whatever. But Saving Private Ryan, it's Steven Spielberg at his absolute best, and I don't know, like, he's still doing great movies, but this is it. Like, for me, Steven Spielberg, this is it for me. This is his absolute best. He's amazing in this. He's able to pull fantastic performances out of Tom Hanks and Tom Sizemore and everybody else in this movie.
Matt Damon. There's like a Nathan Fillion.
Yeah,
and then
cameo,
a little bit of Nathan Fillion. Every movie could use a little more Nathan Fillion.
I love it. I think the D-Day scene is absolutely one of those scenes that really hits home.
Yeah.
I think that's why this movie goes down in film history, not only for how realistic it feels, but also to see all these young men just not ready for what the fuck they were about to walk into.
On the convoys, just like puking before they've even like hit the beach.
And you're just looking left and right, and there's like 17-year-old boys, and they're all just shaken and cold.
That whole sequence alone just like the Normandy stuff, could be a short film.
Yeah, exactly. You release that, and I would have been like, nice.
Could be like an Academy Award-winning short film.
Give it the Oscars, you know? Like, and that's why I don't mind that this won all those Oscars that year, because it fucking deserves it. And yes, it's memed to hell now, and definitely, if you watch it now, you're like, oh, it's not doing anything new for war movies. But you're like, yeah, but everybody's copied Saving Private Ryan ever since. If you like Modern Warfare, if you like Call of Duty at all, you credit most of that to fucking Saving Private Ryan over here. Because the Saving Private Ryan made that, like, World War II popular again, sort of, during that time in 1998. Like, it was like, here we go again.
Like, its influence is still felt.
It's huge. So I like this movie a lot. I have seen it God knows how many times, you know, like 4, 5, 6 times or something.
I've seen it just the once.
Yeah, I've seen it so many times. And that's because grandfathers. So on this list, it's really funny for the next war movie. Right out of left field, we have Braveheart, which I
mean, that's a war film, but that's not...
It's not what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's definitely not
It's absolutely a war film,
and it's a good film.
Yeah.
I'm not good. Like, that's why it's up here on the highest
But when you think war film,
list.
you usually intentionally think guns.
Gun. Yeah, yes, but it doesn't have to be that.
Yeah, exactly.
It is still warfare. But, because wouldn't you say one of your, well, not one of your favorites, but one of your most discussed movies, I would say, is Kingdom of...
Kingdom of Heaven. Yeah, I like Kingdom of Heaven a lot.
That's
specifically
a war movie.
The director's cut.
Specifically,
that's a completely different movie.
That's a completely different topic. But that is a great war movie.
Yeah.
Director's cut.
Again, it just happens
cut.
as opposed to being like more modern warfare.
Yeah,
it happens to be about the Crusades,
which I also enjoy that movie. I think that. The director's cut improves on pretty much everything.
Yeah, the theatrical cut is a mess. It's very all over the place.
Yeah, and
it's just one of those things where like sometimes a movie just needs to be long, and when the studio like peer pressures to like trim that sucker down, you sometimes just cut essential stuff,
and it just doesn't.
Sometimes
play.
That's the way it is.
Yeah, I wouldn't say the complete cut of Batman vs Superman saves it, but it definitely like saves parts of it.
It definitely helps it breathe, and it like.
And I feel like this is a similar
definitely makes
situation.
it a little more complete because there are like subplots in the theatrical cut of BVS that like go nowhere in the theatrical cut that are actually paid off there.
Yeah.
Everyone's biggest problem is like, how couldn't you see the wheelchair was going to explode? And like, that's in the ultimate cut. Yeah. Like, that was a whole thing.
You're just like,
Sometimes it needs to be longer.
And I think that movie is Kingdom of Heaven is a fantastic war movie. And it's one of the examples you'll see on this list that's not bang bang shoot 'em up, that still brings a very horrifying vision of war that I think is worth seeing. You know,
yeah, like, I think it's because when you associate with war, you think of like the easy ones.
Yes,
you think of the World Wars, you think Vietnam. To a lesser extent, now with more modern films, you think like Afghanistan.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Moving down this list, have you seen The Pianist? I have not seen The Pianist.
Not for a long time. I don't really remember much about it.
I'm sure it's fantastic. It's Roman Polanski. I mean, he's a disgusting dude, but he makes a good movie.
That's
that's pretty much it. Imitation Game. Have you seen that? I have not seen Imitation Game.
Yeah.
I've heard great things. I mean, and Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah, about Alan Turing.
Yeah. And is good stuff?
Yeah. I don't know how much you know about Alan Turing.
He made the Enigma machine, correct?
Yeah, more or less, from a rudimentary perspective, more or less like the first computer.
Yeah, basically, which is
of
dope,
its time.
Which is dope.
And he like went through a bunch of stuff through his life. He like, because of that, he like helped win the war, but he was also gay.
Oh,
so they like chemically castrated him.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, it's real messed up.
Yeah,
it's some messed up stuff.
So it's a hard watch. You're saying it's a good.
It's not gonna be like Schindler's List levels, or even to a lesser extent like Apocalypse Now. But it's just one of those things. You're like, what a tragedy.
Yeah, that's sad.
But you could watch it.
Okay,
it's really good.
And next up on the list is one of my favorite war movies. This one's I would say is one of the best. One of the reasons why we're doing this cast is Full Metal Jacket.
Okay.
I love Full Metal Jacket.
Okay, here's the thing.
It is 2 separate movies. It is It is.
And here's the thing. I really love that first movie.
Yes.
The second movie's not as good.
The second movie's, no. So, I mean, that pretty much sums it up. Is the first movie is about kind of like how we brainwash our soldiers into becoming soldiers. You know, like, and it's a horrifying look into that. And it's great because only Stanley Kubrick could bring this like kind of horror movie level to this brainwashing.
He's just the director to have not only that technical prowess, but that sort of like cold, sterile sensibilities. Because that's something that like permeates throughout all his films.
Is that like,
especially, I would argue like 2001 onward, because there's still some warmth to be found in something like Lolita or something like that, or Spartacus.
Yes.
But then once you get to 2001, everything became like real cold.
Real like,
real harsh.
Real harsh. And I would say this is absolutely one of the harshest criticisms of war I've ever seen. And that's what's so great about the movie is it is Stanley Kubrick is unflinching about making the best war movie ever, but also the best anti-war movie ever. You know, like that's really what this is.
It's just that second half. It's just not as good, and it's such a jarring transition. It becomes a completely different thing, which you could argue.
I do like the second half.
You could argue it's admirable,
I'm not saying...
but it's one of those things where I just don't like it as much.
I see.
It's like I was like full on for like the military camp stuff, and I mean that pretty much made R. Lee Ermey's career. Rest in peace. He died a few years ago.
He's fantastic in that role. Absolutely horrifying in a way. You know?
Oh yeah,
he's
totally.
He's just God.
To be honest, he's the best thing about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. which is an okay movie, but like he's there.
Yeah, and he elevates it so much further. So next up on the list here is Pan's Labyrinth, which
Pan's Labyrinth is definitely Pan's Labyrinth is a nice little amalgamation film because it's like a fairy tale and a war film.
It's like you wouldn't think a war movie right off the bat when you're thinking Pan's Labyrinth, but I would say it deals with the horrors of war.
It's one of those things because you think about the more fantastical elements as the first thing that comes to your mind. Yeah. You think about the faun and you think about like the pale man and stuff like that. But you forget like the entire thing is framed around the Spanish Civil War, which is the second film Del Toro did about that because the Devil's Backbone was also about the Spanish Civil War.
Right? It's just like, what? You're like, huh? But Pan's Labyrinth is a surprising movie, I feel like. You go in thinking you're gonna get one thing and you come out getting another and you're totally satisfied anyways. You know, like you're not disappointed. It's something different. It's a fantastic movie.
It's like the horror of and devastation of war from the perspective of a child with like a boundless amount of imagination.
Exactly. And if there wasn't The Shape of Water, I would say this is Guillermo del Toro's best. You know, like in Shape of Water, though.
I do love Shape of Water.
I love Shape of Water.
I would think I would go back and forth between Pan's Labyrinth and Shape of Water. Pan's Labyrinth is definitely one of the few Criterion movies I own.
That's awesome. I bet that's beautiful little Criterion collection. I think Pan's Labyrinth is. If you watch that movie, all you think is give Guillermo del Toro all the fucking money in the world to make anything he wants. You know,
everything he makes pretty much comes out. It's just like, why do you guys not just let the man do what he wants?
Do whatever he wants.
I'm so tired of del Toro's projects being canceled.
Exactly. This man should be able to do whatever he wants, and everyone should trust him completely. This man knows what he's doing.
My big thing is he was like supposed to direct like At the Mountains of Madness. I'm just like, del Toro doing a fucking Lovecraft adaptation. Yeah. Come on.
You're like, give it to me.
And I am curious as to how the Hobbit movies would have turned out when he was going to direct those.
I know. I think that's one of those big what ifs of film. You know, like the big like, what if Kevin Smith actually directed a Superman film? Yeah. What if like Guillermo del Toro got his first off, Justice League Dark, and then The Mountains of Madness, like...
Take a peek into that alternate universe just to see how that turned out.
Right. It's one of those things that just, like, it excites you with the idea, and you kind of go, wow, how could anybody make this stop? You know, like how could you stop the train of this good idea? You know, like, and I'm not saying Kevin Smith's Superman is a great idea. I'm just saying that anything Guillermo del Toro.
You and I need to watch The Death of Superman Lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a wild
That's
one.
a wild ride.
Yeah.
I do want to watch that at some point. It looks like a crazy documentary. I'm down for it. But next up on the list is actually the number one grossing movie on this list. And this will make you laugh. This is the number one of all the war movies of all time. You got to be thinking, like, oh, Saving Private Ryan must have made a fuckload of money. Like, everybody must have made a fuckload of money. You go here, you're the number one movie, and it's my girl, Wonder Woman. You got...
it takes place in World War One.
Takes place in World War One. The whole movie does.
Yeah.
You know, like, it is a war movie. I would not categorize it as another thing, you know, like it is.
Yeah, and it's just as much a superhero movie as it is a war movie. And if you're willing to consider Pan's Labyrinth a movie despite its fantastical elements, then there should be nothing wrong with considering Wonder Woman the same way.
Exactly. And then it's funny because the next up on the list is like American Sniper,
which
where
I
you're
haven't seen.
Yeah, I haven't seen that either.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. It's Clint Eastwood and Bradley Cooper. You know, like I'm in.
I generally like Clint Eastwood's movies.
Yeah. I think he's getting more incoherent with age, but
he's an old man.
He's an old man, but he's a good director. Yeah. But we got to talk about Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is your favorite.
Yeah,
DCEU
we've talked about
movie.
this before. It is my favorite still.
It's a fan. I think it stands out above every DCU movie. I think it obviously takes down Shazam.
Yeah, that's what I was. Like, usually that tends to be the one that's like people's favorite now is Shazam, and I do love Shazam.
Shazam's good, but I think that if we're talking about a movie that gets it right, I think Wonder Woman gets it right most of the time. It feels what DC movie should feel like.
Yeah,
you know? Like,
I had said this like in our our catch up episode when we had first started like rebranding the show that it gives me like the same feeling and like sense of reverence that like watching Superman 78 did as a kid.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's really it, and I give all the credit to Patty Jenkins because she really puts a great movie together here. I think that there's a fantastic performance by everybody, but it's a well-directed action piece.
The only thing people tend to complain about is just like the third act. Yeah. It turns into like a CGI fuckfest. I'm like, yeah, that's the genre though.
Yeah, you're like...
Just like everyone says Iron Man's like third act kind of falls apart, but to me it doesn't like detract from the overall experience.
No, definitely not. It's funny because it sits at so much more millions than everybody else. That's what cracks me up. It's at $412 million. And then you have next up American Sniper at 350. So like not even fucking close, you know, like, and then Saving Private Ryan at literally half. You're like, eat it. You Chad Wonder Woman beating up little wimpy fucking Saving Private Ryan.
The virgin Saving Private Ryan versus the Chad Wonder Woman.
Yes, this will be a great meme. They're like, make more money, bitch. You know,
God, I want Wonder Woman 1984 so goddamn bad.
You got to give it to Gone with the Wind. It's got 198 million gross, and I don't know if that's inflated, like, because that would definitely pass.
I think it is. It is like
inflate. Yeah, because that's a lot of money.
Because I feel like every time I've looked up highest grossing films, Gone with the Wind always comes up with that like caveat.
Yeah,
for
the caveat.
Yeah,
that this is with gross with you know. But Wonder Woman, I think that it's a great movie. It's fun. That's the movie that everybody at DC should look at and be like, we should make movies like this. You know, like,
and I mean, we're already kind of in that direction.
Yeah.
Like, things have gotten a little more bright, a little more optimistic, and more fun. Like, Aquaman's not a perfect movie, but it's fucking fun.
I do love Aquaman.
Like,
I almost love Aquaman more than Shazam. Like, I have a good time with Shazam,
yeah,
Aquaman, but I was like, woo!
Aquaman is not a perfect movie, and boy, does it try to do a lot in one film, but it's kind of like everything I ever wanted from an Aquaman film all in one place.
Yeah, it takes our philosophy. We talked about it during the Sonic episode of like, why are you holding back? You have all the money. Yeah. Aquaman doesn't hold back.
Aquaman has that.
It's like, we're going to conquer all these stories right now.
Aquaman has that mentality that like comic book movies movies used to have, where it was just like, we don't know if we're going to be able to make another one of these.
So here it is.
So just do it.
So just do it. And it's like, for some reason, it gives me vibes of Spider-Man 3 in that aspect, where they're just throwing everything, but it still works. It works, where Spider-Man 3 doesn't work at all.
Yeah, it gets messy, but I don't think it ever falls apart or collapses on itself. It's just fun.
So I know this is totally a diatribe, but I saw recently they built a fucking animatronic for Spider-Man 3 of Venom, and then they just didn't use it. They used that shitty CGI and the animatronic looks great. It looks like it walked out of the comic book. It was like, well, here we are. Let's do the fucking thing.
They also built a more accurate symbiote suit for that film too, like the uniform black with the white spider. They didn't use that either.
Jesus, that's fucking stupid. Moving back, Dunkirk. So this is one I've seen actually this year. I love this movie a lot because I think it's 1917 and Dunkirk are two British war movies that are not about a battle. Yeah. If Saving Private Ryan's like World War II's best hits in battle film, then
all the beloved classics.
Yeah, D-Day. Battle through France. It's
like one of those late night commercials about compilation albums,
country albums,
all your favorite hits right here.
Right here. I think this new generation of war movies that are not about the battle per se, but about a mission or here with Dunkirk, a retreat. Mm-hmm. So that's what I really love about Dunkirk is I think it's the first war movie that does not do a battle. It is strictly a retreat movie. They're all trying to just escape the entire movie. It's so sad. It's like it's kind of a horror movie in a way, these boys are gonna die, they're in the face of this gigantic war they can't do shit about,
and it's something that plays to Nolan's strengths because boy does he love playing and editing with time.
I mean, but if there's any movie that deserves an Oscar for sound editing, Saving Private Ryan's fucking great sound editing. If you want to learn some shit about sound editing, Saving Private Ryan. But fucking Dunkirk, sound
the
mixing
way it's
and
sound
editing,
mixing, editing, and score is able to tell its story.
It's fantastic, and I love the constant. He uses this. I forget what the name of the musical device is, but it's this ever ramping tone. It's like, it sounds like it's getting fucking louder every time you hear it. And technically it's not, but it messes with you and it gives you more anxiety. That's what I fucking love about Dunkirk. It just fills you with oh shit, you gotta run, bitch. And I think that that Dunkirk it might not be Christopher Nolan's best, but it might be one of his more memorable ones that will live down in history, sort of, because it does show, like I said, with Saving Private Ryan and the D-Day scene, how horrifying it is to see these young boys trying to just going into the face of this is death, basically. Here in Dunkirk, it's basically young boys trying to escape war and trying to just live,
the scene where the sink ship, the ship sinks and they're just swimming in the dark.
Yeah, right. You're just I love it. It's funny because my wife likes to call it they're the worst luck charms in the world. Everything they show up on just fucking explodes. So it's really about these two kids who have the worst luck in existence. They're just cursed. Because that's really it, is they just keep getting into worse and worse situations. And I love the crossing of the timelines with Tom Hardy's dogfighting, first off, I think Tom Hardy's perfect in basically a no-speaking role here. He's just
we just love putting shit on Tom Hardy's face to give him a funny voice.
Yes.
We just love doing it.
He just loves doing it. I think this is... Tom Hardy is always fantastic, but this is one of his best, and I think that this is Christopher Nolan really flexing how much he can really stress you out.
Yeah,
like
I just love how grounded and not overly showy like the dogfights are,
and the whole movie. It's not. That's what's so horrifying about it. It's not that they're dying in a big spectacular explosion. It's like it's a bullet through a boat that is now sinking, and now they're all dying in the boat. And like, how horrifying would that be, just to die in the boat you were hiding from people from? You know, it's one of. Oh man, it's just. It just makes you, the whole movie just makes you go, ah! Like, you know, like, you're just like, no, that's terrible, you know, like, and I really do love Dunkirk. I really do.
Yeah, it's definitely an achievement as far as representing that moment in time, because there have been attempts to try and, like, condense or, like, represent Dunkirk, but it's such a complicated situation that it's been really hard to level with.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where, like, he kind of took it upon himself as a challenge.
I think he succeeds.
And you can kind of see, because when you look at the skeleton of the film, it would be very easy to be, like, completely confusing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, there are so many moving pieces.
And that's what's so... I think that shows more why Christopher Nolan is one of my favorite filmmakers, and I think one of the best filmmakers we have alive is because it is able to pull something like this off without it feeling cheesy or overdone or anything like that. It just feels natural. Yeah. And telling a great story.
Definitely excited for Tenet.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Oh, man, I got to see the IMAX preview for that. I forget what I think it was when I went to go see 1917.
Nice.
They did, like, the whole, like, IMAX prologue, and it was fucking nuts.
All right, so that brings us right into 1917, though. So what we watched today. I didn't see it when we talked about Best Picture nominees, and I felt like it was kind of sad that I saw Parasite, but I hadn't seen 1917, and they were obviously the closest competition. 1917 is staggering.
Yeah.
It's staggering. It's one of those movies that, like, just blows you away. Like, and sure, it might just be my, like, filmmaking nerd, like, self, but damn this movie, man. Damn.
Yeah.
This movie's great. This movie's fucking awesome.
I want to address the criticisms just to say that they're wrong. Because a lot of people like to diminish what 1917 accomplishes by just saying, like, outside of that one-shot gimmick, there's really not much to it.
Which is so stupid.
Yeah.
First off, because there's a lot of meat going on here.
The one shot is the entire point of that film. It's a point of view.
Yeah.
Like, unlike other war films, it is the most where I felt like I'm there with them, because
standing there with him.
Yeah, you're just on a journey with him over the course of just like a day or two.
Yeah.
And you're just there, and you just felt like you've been through the ringer.
I really... Yeah, exactly. Almost exhausted at the end of it, because you've been standing there, like, kind of right over his shoulder the whole time, like, witnessing all this. I think you really feel it when you come to the last scenes where he's running through the pits and trying to get to the commander. Yeah. Because you're just, like, right there with him, and you're like, go! Like, you're like, move!
And you're, like, just as exhausted as he is by the end. It's one of those things where, like, it makes the film so much more immersive.
The plot is great, but I think not only is it amazing that's one shot, but it's amazing how Roger Deakins, the cinematographer of this movie, which if you don't know the name, fucking recognize, the man is a living legend, and he shows it here. God damn, do they deserve the best Oscar for cinematography for not this year, but the next year, and the next year, because god damn, this
best cinematography for the medium going forward.
For moving forward, fuck, it's so fucking incredible. He's amazing. He's using at moments such simpleness, like we have during the France scene. You not only do you have because of course that's the most amazing scene. Do you have the flares going off and how well that lights the scene and how well it moves the action?
Yeah, the shadows start to like move.
But you also have this really subtle moment of when they go into the bunker and it's all just one candlelight, you know, and one lamp, you know, 2 lamps, and you're just like, Deakins, you crazy bastard! Like Because you come to the shot where he comes around and he's talking and singing to the baby, and the light's perfectly, like, cutting his eyes, and you're like, Deakins, you crazy bitch! Like, I literally just kept saying it the whole movie, I just kept, like, Deshaun Montess, I just kept saying the whole time, you crazy bitch. Crazy bitch.
I was waiting for it.
It's so nuts.
Because I had already seen it in theaters, and I knew once you eventually watched it, I'm just like, when Frank finally sits down and watches this, he's gonna fucking freak out, especially when you get to the France stuff. Like, it's just gonna blow him away, because it blew me away when I was watching it.
It's crazy.
Like, my brother doesn't really know much about, like, the technical aspects of film. He's just, he's like an average Joe. He likes movies. Like, I was freaking out, and I couldn't really geek out to him on the same level I could with you when I came out of it. Because all I would talk about was, like, how good the lighting was.
Yeah, the lighting was
just like, you understand that whole fucking sequence in France with the fire and the shadows. You don't understand.
Like, that shot where the guy comes out of the flames, and even you're thinking, is he on your side? Is that a British soldier? You're like, fuck, and then you see him start to, like, sprint towards you, and you're like, fuck! You're like, move! Like, man. Like, the reason why this one shot works better than you have the POV movies like Hardcore Henry, this is way better way to accomplish that same feeling.
See, that's the type of movie that's gimmicky, and that's nothing without its gimmick.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Hardcore Henry's an action film that's fun, but it's only really, really fun because of the POV. And it's literally
just like, it's like a video game, but a movie.
But this is different than that, and yes, it does feel like a video game at times. Like, definitely you go third shoulder, and you're like, duck! Okay, you're like, fucking duck, dude! But, like, it definitely... it's just incredible. It brings you right in, and then it just flexes on you with the lighting constantly.
It's like, definitely like both Sam Mendes and Roger Deakins both sort of like flexing on Alejandro Inarritu, because he also did like the one-shot stuff with Birdman and The Revenant. Yeah. So it's like Roger Deakins and Sam Mendes coming in like, what's up?
What's up? There's so much I love about this movie. I will say Parasite deserves Best Picture.
Yeah.
I think that it's a stronger candidate, a more compact movie.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to talk about a movie that fucking floored me and fucking made me feel like, woo! I would say it was 1917, because it may have been slow at the beginning, but the tension they were building up.
Yeah, you would never come out of Parasite being like woo, because that's a completely different thing. Yeah. It elicits a different sort of reaction. A stronger one and a deeper one, but different.
Yeah, and I'm not, I really am not shitting on either of these movies.
Yeah.
These are both Parasite in 1917. We are lucky to have these movies.
I mean,
this year,
I go into every like Academy season with the attitude of just like, it's between this, and if either one wins, I'm okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say these are the two that you would absolutely be like, these are the strongest contenders. In 1917, it's like I almost feel guilty for not seeing it for so long. It's astounding. I was really astounded. I right away, I think it's one of the best war movies I've ever seen.
I was pretty into it, like, as soon as it was advertised, when I started
of course,
movies and I saw trailers for it.
And it's so funny when you know how many people I blew their mind by telling them after they seen the movie, before I've seen the movie, that it was one shot. Several people saw the whole movie, came out, and said to me, what? It's all one shot?
My brother was the same way.
And you're like, what do you mean you didn't notice it was one shot? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?
I mean,
because it literally, that first bit where they're running through the trenches and there's just thousands of people, and it's all one shot. First off, I was fully erect and shitting my pants, because you're like, what the fuck, Sam Mendes? Like, what the fuck? This is incredible. This is Return of the King level shit, you know? Like, this is like so many people on screen and doing it so fucking well, and you're just like, God damn you, Sam Mendes.
Yeah, I wouldn't knock
amazing.
I wouldn't knock it against the normies for not like really noticing that it was one shot, because it's one of those things where like they're immersed in the film, even if they can't vocalize why they're so immersed. Yeah, and it's one of those things. It's like the philosophy behind a special effect. Yeah, like the best special effect is the one that you don't notice.
And it's almost a compliment to not notice it's one shot. It's almost a compliment. But to the film people, I just couldn't even fucking handle it. Like I just couldn't. I feel like, like if I'd seen it in theaters, I probably would have had like some sort of panic attack because I would have been like, "What the fuck is happening?" Like it's just like it's astounding. And I've always been a Sam Mendes fan. I've always been a Roger Deakins fan. I'm like those two are some of my favorite filmmakers alive. Like no question, they're living legends, and they just flex it here. This is not only a great film, but it's a great film done by filmmakers at their best.
Yeah. And it's also refreshing that it's about World War I.
Yes.
Like, we didn't really bring this up with Wonder Woman, but World War II tends to be the quote-unquote more popular one. Because...
Man, my favorite war is World War II.
It's because World War II literally has, like, a super villain to aim at. You know what I mean?
Kill Hitler. It's
like,
over.
World War I is a lot more messier as opposed to, like, who's on the right side and who's on the wrong.
Yeah.
It's a huge mess.
Yeah, exactly.
World War II has like an easy villain to be like Nazis. That's the bad guys.
They're like, and the Japanese.
Yeah,
they're like bad guys indeed, and the Italians until they puss it out.
Yeah, it's all, but it's just easier to point to.
Yeah,
so it tends to be used a lot more. But what I like, what interests me about like World War I stories is that it's
the brutality of it.
It's the brutality of it because it was before like war became a huge industry.
Yeah,
like the lack of like technical prowess and like the technology that was available at the time. It's a lot grittier.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's like that they had that 1917 is about sending a letter. That they couldn't just like radio across the lines and be like, "Hey, we can't fucking attack today. Don't fucking do it."
Yeah,
like that's the like entire plot. Like, sure, the plot of 1917 could be solved by a fucking radio, but like that's not the point. Like, is that they didn't have that, and this is what they had to do. Like, and that's what's so crazy is even the trenches in concept is that like they were set up so tanks couldn't get across it. Like so you couldn't. It made war very personal.
Yeah,
that's what's so scary about War I is it's one of the last wars where they have to be right in front of each other, right next to each other, getting each other's faces, popping over lines and stabbing each other instead of, see that guy from 150 miles away, let me hit him with a 50 caliber sniper and bam, he's gone. Like it's like, yes, World War II it doesn't have all that, but they definitely got up close with World War II. I'm not saying they didn't. I'm just saying World War I, it was their only choice.
Yeah, everything about it was a lot more up close and personal.
Yeah, even the dogfights, even like being in a plane, like is extremely personal and basically comes down to like you versus that other pilot. Like it's like
it's not as simple as just like. And we're here, and we drop some bombs, and we're out.
Yeah, it's more just like literally, World War I pilots carried pistols with them for two reasons: one, to whip it out when you were out of ammo to fucking shoot at the other guy, or to fucking kill yourself if you didn't think you were going to win. Like, badass as fuck, but also goddamn.
And you can see like the echoing or just like the rumblings that it had for the culture going forward. Even something like Tolkien being influenced by his days fighting in World War I, how it permeates in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Imagine how much different that would be if it was World War II instead.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're just very different.
Mm-hmm. I always think it's interesting. Ooh, speaking of World War I movies, the most famous one, All Quiet on the Eastern Front. Have you ever Western Front?
Western Front.
Western Front. You ever seen that movie?
It's been a while though.
Been a while. I saw it was one of those ones we watched in high school that they made us watch to be like the horrors of war. and I think that's another really sad one, but they do a great job of and that's I feel like what's so great about 1917 is it stands on the back of great movies like All Quiet on the Western Front and does such a great job of still delivering that sort of message, like of that these are boys we're sending out and to do these horrifying acts and live through these horrifying events, and then we're just supposed to like come back to society. Isn't this great? That's not going to happen to these boys, like. And they slightly touch on it in 1917, but All Quiet on the Western Front is all about that, about how hard it is to come back to
what I love that sort of hits like a truck at the end of 1917 is that it all just boiled down to like a handshake as gratitude.
Right, yeah, it always just
given like what we've just witnessed of like everything he went through just to deliver a fucking letter and all just comes down to like good work.
Good work. And yeah, like a fuck off and good work.
Yeah.
You know, like that's all it comes down to. It's like he lost one of his good friends, like went through all this shit, like basically.
And the thing is, that was a day or two.
Right? A day. It's
just
or
like,
two.
yikes.
It's like, Jesus Christ. You're like, fuck that. So moving down the list here, it's funny because they put Casablanca, and right there, I'm not fucking putting Casablanca as a war movie.
Casablanca is one of those things where I wouldn't call it.
Yes, it's in the background, but that's not a war movie. Like,
it's definitely like this sense of like tension that surrounds the film as like a framework for the romance to work. But then you would have to
be like, Indiana Jones is a war movie.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like not really,
no, not
though.
really.
Like, yes, all of Last Crusade is about World War II and about Nazis and fighting them. But is it a war movie?
No.
Like, that's not it. So as much as I will give credit, Casablanca is a fantastic movie.
Yeah, it is,
still
absolutely.
Stands up today.
But it's just one of those things where like we're
watch.
arguing like genre placement at this point.
Yeah,
you look at other films like Pan's Labyrinth or Wonder Woman, despite like their fantastical elements, still have more of the war point of it at the forefront.
Exactly. So moving on down to a movie I haven't seen, but you have Hacksaw Ridge.
Yeah.
I own it, too. I haven't seen it.
Mel Gibson.
Yeah,
it's solid. It's an interesting, it's based on a true story.
Now it's interesting for you because you're an atheist, so what, and I'm not exactly religious either, but like this is a very Christian movie. This is a very like,
it's because the perspective is interesting.
Yeah.
The idea of like this, very devout, like pacifistic soldier like throughout the war and like his point of view given like the horrifying things that are happening just from like a character perspective. Throwing someone like that into war is a fascinating story, and that's pretty much what it came down to. Andrew Garfield's performance in that is great.
Is good.
Yeah, he's great in that.
I think he's one of the it's like I love Andrew Garfield, and not only was he a great Peter Parker, but he's one of the great young actors we have, and I don't think he's being utilized right, you know, like, and I think he'll come into his own. I think at something like when he's a lot older, they're gonna think he's one of the best actors alive. I think they're gonna give him some role, and he's gonna
thankfully
fly.
Thankfully it's not like, and we'll bring this up later just because he's in one of the movies for later, is like Matthew McConaughey. Matthew McConaughey has always been a great actor, but he's been in such shit for most of his career.
Yeah, exactly. And there's some great movies.
Yeah.
He's Dallas Buyers
But it was
Club,
always like so. Yeah, but that was like now.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
more recently.
Exactly.
Like pretty much once the 2010s came around was when there's just like. It's like, oh, we're finally utilizing this man's talents, and now he's being recognized for the great actor he's always been. Yeah,
I would say the same thing. I think there's some really bad fucking Keanu Reeves movies.
Well, Keanu Reeves is sort of a different thing because McConaughey has a lot of range. Keanu Reeves is really good for particular projects.
Yeah,
and in those particular projects, he really excels.
Yeah, definitely. I just talking about like the beloved resurgence of a guy who's been around forever and has done well, but never like now he's like hit a weird stride, you know, like
he's like the internet's favorite boyfriend.
Yeah, exactly. Next up on the list, have you seen this Fury?
I haven't.
No, I haven't seen this one either.
I've heard it's good. It's one of those things where people like to bring up, just like, we swear David Ayer can make
a good director.
I
swear to God he was a good director.
David Ayer can make good movies. We swear, guys.
I swear it. Next up on the list, I think, is the #1 most overrated Best Picture winner of all time. The Hurt Locker's a piece of shit movie.
I've never seen it.
I don't like this movie. Yeah. I don't think it's tense. Everyone's always like, oh my God, it's so tense, that bomb, will it go off? You're like, no, you're not going to kill Jeremy Renner. Like, no, you're just not. Like, I don't buy this movie. And most people were head over heels for it, and I just never clicked with it.
And I remember you not watching Zero Dark 30 because you didn't like The Hurt Locker. Yeah,
because you're going to tell me, oh, it's the same director and he's doing the same thing. And I'm supposed to just line up for it again.
I think the only Catherine Bigelow film I've seen is Point Break.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember all her movies real quick.
Those are the ones that come to mind immediately are Point Break, The Hurt Locker, and Zero Dark 30.
Yeah. She did Near Dark.
I have seen Near Dark. I do like Near Dark.
Okay. She did direct K-19, The Widowmaker. Fuck yes. If we're talking about a good war movie that's not a war movie, but is K-19, The Widowmaker, great submarine movie. That's a whole separate subgenre if you're talking about my dad was always into submarine movies and boat movies. That's what he loves to watch, and I've seen every fucking submarine movie ever.
Does he just adore The Hunt for Red October?
Oh, fuck yeah. We watched that. I watched that so young, like way too young. And we definitely always quote, like, careful what you shoot at, Jack. Things don't react well to bullets. First off, my brother's name is Jack. And so we just constantly say this shit. It's one of those things that you're just like, yeah, that's it. So I'm not saying she's a bad director or anything. I am literally just saying The Hurt Locker is an extremely overrated film, and I don't think it's very good. I really don't, and I just don't think it's worth that.
I definitely haven't heard you, like, it push your buttons in a while, because I remember that would be, like, a hot button topic in school.
Yeah,
like,
people would
college.
be like, man, I love The Hurt Locker. I'd be like, that's trash!
And you would just, like, strangle them.
It's strictly because the movie is built on tension that is nothing. It's like a prequel movie. You fucking know the bomb's not gonna go off. Like, and if it's gonna go off, Jeremy Renner's gonna be like, it's fine. I'm fucked up, but it's fine. You know, like, it's just not a movie that has any tension at all, and it thinks it does. It's like The Usual Suspects, where it's like, wow, did I really fucking trick you with the
Kaiser Soze
thing? I really did, didn't I? And I'm like, I fucking knew it was him from the start, and you didn't, like, and it just, the twist does nothing. Does nothing.
That's an interesting thing to note, is movies that sort of rely on their twist, and even if they don't, like, whether or not that sort of ruins the experience for you. That's an interesting discussion in and of itself, because people don't believe me when I tell them that I saw the ending of Seven coming.
Yeah.
Not Gwyneth Paltrow's head. Not that specifically. But I knew Brad Pitt's character was going to be Wrath.
Yeah.
Like, the film kind of telegraphs that from beginning to end. Like, I knew that's where they were going, that he was going to be Wrath.
That he had to bring the anger,
I didn't know what the specific details of it were going to be, but I knew that's where they were going.
See, that it's like, I feel like The Usual Suspects, it falls into the same trap of Into Darkness. It thinks its twist is the movie, and in reality, it does nothing. It moves nothing. It does nothing. Like, you get nothing, sir.
But Frank, Rafa-Khan, you remember Rafa-Khan?
Oh, God.
You remember Rafa-Khan?
Yeah, you remember that movie?
That was a good movie. You remember it?
You remember that movie?
We did the death scene, except it's cool because we reversed it.
Fuck.
Because it's Kirk instead of Spock this time.
No, I just don't. It's so goddamn dumb. I hate to get angry about movies when we're talking about this, but you know, I have to say how much I don't like that movie.
Into Darkness was also a weird one for us because it was around the time we watched that movie a lot.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where, like, by the third time I was kind of done with it. Like, I was just so tired of it.
It's true. You're just like, I'm done with this. Next up, one I actually haven't seen. Have you seen The Last Samurai?
I have, but it's been a while.
I always thought this was a white savior movie I did not need to see.
Oh, it totally is.
Like, and that's the reason why I haven't seen it, is I don't need to see another white savior movie. Just have whatever country you are in, use a native born, and I'm okay with it. You know, like, I don't need Tom Cruise, Matt Damon, any other white savior to step in to fucking save these people. Like, I just want to see a movie from that perspective. I don't need to have an American there to make me feel comfortable with the movie. That's what I feel is inherently racist with the white savior movie trope, is that it's always like, they won't like this movie if we don't have a Tom Cruise, you know, like, if we don't have a Matt Damon, you know, like, it doesn't, sort of like it won't stand on its own.
It's sort of like the trepidation with, like, female-led superhero movies. Yeah. It's like, well, they don't sell. They don't do well. It's just like, no, it's not that. It's because all the ones you made up until this point, like Supergirl and Catwoman and Elektra, have been hot fucking garbage.
Hot garbage. And then they're like, why don't these work? And you're like, because you made a terrible movie.
How did this happen?
It's like,
what? It's like the fucking Eric Andre meme where he shoots Hannibal Buress. Why would females do this?
It's terrible. You're like, fuck. Moving on down the list, Tropic Thunder. This is
I love this movie.
This is the funniest war movie.
It's one of my favorite comedies.
It's so fucking funny. I don't like people trying to say it's racist now because obviously that's stupid. You know,
I think the reason why now it's only coming around is not only because of like recent conversations, but also because when the film came out, people were more focused on like the simple Jack stuff.
Yeah, they were like, "Whoa, that's offensive."
That kind of became the scapegoat. And they just kind of like forgave the other thing, and then now it's kind of come around. The thing about Tropic Thunder is that, yes, Robert Downey Jr. plays a character who's in blackface. But the thing is, in context of the film, he's playing a method actor playing a black man, and the entire thing is taking a piss at like method actors and actors in general, just their ego.
Yeah, going so
just
far.
Their sheer ego. And it's something that's brought to the forefront that it is a controversial thing in context of the film. And there's a black character in the cast who brings it up himself.
Yeah, it's like, it's not like they just did it and didn't address it. Yeah. It's like they're doing it and obviously saying it's bad. Like they're obviously saying it's too far.
There's
like
literally a black character there. Like that's the joke.
Yeah.
The whole thing, like, oh man, the way Tropic Thunder just represents Hollywood in general is so
fucking funny. I love I killed it. I killed something I love. Okay, man, I got a guy who knows how to hide stripper bodies. Strippers. You mean a panda?
You killed a hooker,
okay. Yeah, you killed a hooker, okay.
So you're gonna need a shitload of lime. And just like the pettiness, like all the actors being divas, the obligatory like rapper who's trying to like make it in like movie stardom that really
all the drugs
that really has no business being an actor, like the Jack Black who's clearly trying to be like the Chris Farley type who's like a super cokehead. And you're just like, it's all there. It's all satirical. Like there's a point to it. To the point where even Robert Downey Jr. like brings that up because people have like asked him more often about it now. He says, I take exception with that one because that's the joke.
Yeah,
that's the joke. It's like the entire point is that I'm playing an actor who has like the ego and audacity to think he can do this.
And I think that's, I would categorize this as a war movie because it's spoofing on war movies.
It takes the piss out of like everything.
And everything, but also war, you know, basically war movies the whole time. Especially, you know, like Platoon and and stuff
it openly like mocks Platoon right from the opening,
right from the get-go, like,
where they're like, you don't realize they're on set just yet. It does like that where he's being shot a bunch and flailing, and it's got like the poetic like singing in the background.
Oh my god, so fucking funny. Now the next movie on the list is it used to be one of my favorite movies. I would say when I was younger, before I had seen more movies, and this was one of the only ones I had seen that was rated R, Black Hawk Down was one of my favorite movies of all time. I thought it was so tense. I thought it was cool. I loved the human drama. And most of all, I loved that it was a true event. And this was another one that the reason why I had seen it really early at a young age, this was another one, and if you know this from listening to the podcast, my mom forced me to read books before seeing movies that were inappropriate for me. So Black Hawk Down is one of my favorites because I read it really early, and then I got to watch Black Hawk Down, and I was like, wee! Like, you know, like...
Such a weird, like, big brain move.
Yeah, right?
Because it's not exactly going to help, because if anything, the book's going to be more
horrifying.
But I guess it is still a good, like, 4D chess move to make you read more books.
Yeah, true.
Improvise, adapt, overcome.
Modern problems require modern solutions.
Modern problems require modern solutions.
and that's really what that was. And so that was one of my like first R-rated movies I saw. There were several, but this was one of the first ones, and it blew me away because it was able to adapt the book so well, which was a true event, which already was adapting a true event, you know, like, so it's kind of cool to be like real news to the real book to the real situation, you know, like to the movie, you know.
Black Hawk Down was Ridley Scott, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I would say, for me, this is Ridley Scott's absolute best, no question. Like, Gladiator's okay, but I think
I've never been big on Gladiator.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that people are starting to like come around to where I'm at about Gladiator, because I've never been like huge on it.
Yeah.
I remember Roger Ebert not being huge on it either.
Yeah, right.
And then like now that like decades have passed, people do look back on it. It's just like, yeah, that's not
it's not super great.
It's definitely not for me, but
I know you're a Blade Runner
I'm a Blade Runner guy, but I also love Alien.
Yeah.
And even then, I think he has, like, other stuff that's a little stronger. Even if it's not as deep.
Yeah.
Like, you ever seen Thelma and Louise?
I knew you were going to bring up Thelma and Louise.
Hey, ain't nothing wrong with Thelma and Louise.
No, there's nothing wrong with Thelma and Louise. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with it. I just knew you were going to bring it up when you're talking about good Ridley Scott films.
And I did finally, like, watch The Martian, because I had put it off for the longest time, because Ridley Scott tends not to make good movies anymore.
Yeah.
But The Martian was really good. The Martian was great.
Tends not to make good movies anymore.
Look,
I
man.
fucking love it.
Look, man, I'm just happy that when he finally does threaten me with another Alien prequel, that it will be a weapon to surpass the Star Wars prequel trilogy.
Yeah, right?
Just like this is no longer the worst prequel trilogy.
They're like, just look at Prometheus and Alien Covenant.
Oh my
just look at these
God, Covenant was so bad.
I still haven't seen it because how angry you are at the movie.
I was like sucking my thumb in a fetal position, just rocking back and forth like, it's worse than Prometheus. It's worse than Prometheus. How is it worse than Prometheus? Oh my God, it's worse than Prometheus. How is this possible? Oh, it was terrible.
Oh, man. Now, this is another movie. The next one on the list is another movie that was shown in school for some reason. I don't know why we watched so many fucking war movies in school, especially this one, Hotel Rwanda. Did you?
I haven't seen Rwanda. I know the name.
Another one that is horrifying. It's in the same genre as Schindler's List, where you are witnessing a genocide, and a man who's trying to stop at least a few people from not dying in the face of genocide, and it really is a very hopeful story, and it's fantastic. Joaquin Phoenix is fantastic in it, but obviously John Cheadle is he became one of my favorite actors.
What kind of movies were they showing you in high school?
Right? I don't know what they fucking
like. I grew up in a shithole town, so the only thing we ever tended to watch in school was just like those stupid, hopeful, like inspirational school movies.
Oh, really? That's funny.
Yeah,
because like some classes were like, "Hey, this is one of those movies."
We'd watch like fucking Remember the Titans or fucking what's the one with Hilary Swank where she like goes to like a black neighborhood school.
That one's terrible.
Yeah.
That one's real bad. She's like an English teacher, and
man. And we watched another. That's definitely a white savior movie. That's a whole subgenre of white savior movies.
Christ,
or we watch like stuff like Lean on Me and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That'd be it.
You're just like,
I think the best like movie I saw in high school was when my English teacher, who loved my high school English teacher.
Nice.
He was like one of the big forefronts of like making me a better writer.
Yeah.
You always remember those great teachers.
Yeah.
He made us watch 12 Angry Men.
Oh,
and I was like the only one in the
I
wasn't the only one in the class because I was with a bunch of normies.
It's so funny. My film teacher in high school also did that. And it was weird because it was an independent study, so it was one of those things that was by myself, and he was just like giving me movies, and he was like, he was giving me options every week, but then there was one week where he was like, you have to watch 12 Angry Men, and that's your homework.
Every one of like my classmates were a bunch of North. God, I hate my hometown. And he showed that, and he showed like To Kill a Mockingbird, and like those were like, oh my God. And this was at a point in my life where it was really hard to pull me into like black and white films because I had this stupid like naive notion as a kid. There's like black and white, old, just like
wow. That's very normy of you, Tisha.
Yeah, it's okay. I evolved.
I have evolved.
But so like 12 Angry Men was like the first one. There's like, I think this is the first black and white movie that I've genuinely loved, and I really liked To Kill a Mockingbird after that.
Yeah. I recommend
12 Angry Men
to anybody.
Is one of my favorite movies, especially from like a screenplay perspective, because we read the stage play for it before we like watched the movie.
Oh, nice. That's
awesome.
Awesome.
That was great. That's actually another Criterion film I own.
Nice. Next up is not a good one, but it's high up on this list. Pearl fucking Harbor. This is a Michael Bay fest.
Pearl Harbor's bad.
It's bad. It's just...
It's
bad.
Damn it, Lindsay Ellis. I had never thought of it as like sort of a Titanic ripoff, or maybe less of a Titanic ripoff and more just like, well, that works, so what if we sort of took the framework and just did it, but for this tragic event? Until she would bring it up so many times, because it wasn't just like her latest videos. Like, she used to bring it up a lot, like with like her old nostalgia chick videos, and it's basically it. Like it's trying to take that like romance in the face of like a tragedy, but with like big scale, like big spectacle, like tragedy, except it's Pearl Harbor instead of Titanic, and it's so clumsy.
It's so clumsy. it's like, it's not insulting, but it's close enough. You know,
there's
like,
some insulting things.
Yeah, I would say.
Like the Japanese planes like firing at the hospitals.
Yeah, you're
that's like look, when it comes to like historical stuff, at the end of the day, it is a movie, not a documentary, and sometimes you need to change things to make it work to make
dramatic.
the narrative. Yeah. But there are some things that are like irresponsible, and that's one of the ones
like,
that
angry. At people that,
like
that
showing Japanese
happen.
planes firing at hospitals or like innocent civilians in the street when the attack was solely focused on Pearl Harbor. That's irresponsible.
Yeah, especially it's like. So the thing about Pearl Harbor is that as much as like Americans try so hard to act like it was a surprise attack, and yes, it was. They did warn us. They were respectful about it, you know, like they were like they said they were going to attack a station, then they decided what station, and they sent a message, and that message came a little too late, but they did send it, you know, like being like, hey, you know, like we're going to attack Pearl Harbor, you know, like here it comes. And like it only doesn't, it's like it's just because we don't communicate right. I think that's the reason why Pearl Harbor went as badly as it did. And that's what's so sad about the Pearl Harbor movie, is it doesn't touch any of like the tragedy of what Pearl Harbor actually is.
And then the
sad
thing
an unprepared attack. When it shouldn't have been.
And then the thing that sucks is that the movie is bad, but it's a popular one. Like, it did well.
Yeah.
So it's unlikely that we'll get, like, an actual decent Pearl Harbor film that's actually a little more accurate to history anytime soon. Because, as an idea, like, to mine for a story, it could be a very interesting film.
Yeah.
But this ain't it.
This ain't a movie. I don't remember if I seen The Deer Hunter.
I haven't seen The Deer Hunter, but I know, like, its iconography. Everyone knows, like, the headband.
Exactly. Everyone knows that. So that's one of those big, popular, great movies that I have not fully seen. I mean, there's great people there. On this list here is Les Mis, but I'm not going to count Les Mis as a...
Les Mis is more for, like, a musical discussion.
Yeah, and we've talked about it in the musical episode. And now I think we're getting into a few movies that get a little, you know, like...
They sometimes get a little dicey.
So we gotta start bringing in some of the better ones that not on this list. Mulan is movie before Guardians of the Galaxy. It was the Disney movie with the highest body count. Mulan is the Disney princess with the highest body count. She's killed the most people, and
it's funny that movie's not more interesting than it is.
But no, Mulan's interesting.
Mulan's fine.
Mulan's fun. I watched it the other day. We watched it on Disney Plus.
Yeah,
and I think it's good. I think it's
fine.
real good. I definitely, I think there's a reason why it stands out.
It's fine.
Like, all right, fine.
That's about as far as it goes.
Fine, then, Deshaun.
Fine.
I like it.
Fine.
I like it. I have a good time. I know all the songs.
Name everyone. Name every song, Frank.
Fuck you, Deshaun. Moving on then, Deshaun. One of my favorites that's not very high on this list is Enemy at the Gates. Have you seen Enemy at the Gates? This is Jude Law and Ed Harris.
Oh, Jude Law and Ed Harris. Yeah, but that's another one that I barely remember it.
Oh man,
not
I
in
love
terms,
that movie.
Not to knock anything against its quality. It's just been so long.
First off, the Battle of Stalingrad is one of the most interesting parts of World War II, and it's just never covered. You know, like it is you get 11 in Call of Duty, and you get this movie. That's pretty much it for Battle of Stalingrad media, and it's kind of disappointing because it's so interesting. It's wild that Stalin sent this many men to fight in Stalingrad without ammo, you know, without equipment, without just bodies.
I think maybe it's one of those things where not like dissimilar to Dunkirk. It's one of those things that may be messy to try and tell properly.
Yeah, exactly, because it's a losing battle.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to tell a story where you're losing, you know? Like, and that's what's so interesting about, I think, Dunkirk and Enemy at the Gates is it's not a winning story. You don't come out being like, wow, we did it, go America, you know? Like, it's like, oh, shit, war sucks. Like, god damn. Like, it's, so we already talked a little bit about Jojo Rabbit a little bit, but another one that came out last year that is just astounding. And I think...
at the time the Oscars were going on, I hadn't seen Parasite yet because I had watched it with you.
Yeah.
So that was like my favorite up there with 1917 as well, was Jojo Rabbit.
I gotta say I like 1917 more than Jojo Rabbit, but
Which is fair.
Which is fair, but I think Jojo Rabbit is an extremely powerful and effective movie.
Yeah.
I think that's why it was nominated for Best Picture and why it's what it deserves it, like it's a really good movie, really effective. I think it's Taika
Waititi.
Thank you. I think it might be his best movie, it's definitely...
I would say so, yeah.
I think it's his most powerful. I love a lot of his movies, but I think that Jojo Rabbit really stands above as being his best so far, I would say, because he's just striding into his greatness.
I'm really looking forward to Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yes.
Because Ragnarok spent so much time trying to wipe the slate clean
Rewrite
and be its own thing. Now that that's out of the way and he has time, room to play a lot more, I want that shit to be wild.
Yeah. So I would say that one of the ones when you're talking about war movies that you can't not bring up is the Everlong Das Boot.
Das Boot.
Das Boot. Basically 4 hours of fucking Das Boot, if you have the director's cut, of course. Which, obviously, you have to watch if you're my dad, and we're talking about submarine movies.
You have to watch if you're my dad.
I think Das Boot is one of the most effective war movies that doesn't do battles ever. It is strictly just how terrible it is to be stuck inside a submarine for so fucking long and be scared, how scary it is to be if anything touches us, we just die, it's instant.
That's always been my thing with submarines, is that they're scary to me because you're just in a tube.
Yeah, you're just done.
You're just in a big tube that if anything goes wrong, it's just bye.
And that's why I think submarine movies can be so effective. Is that already the situation is Jesus. And I think Das Boot is probably the victory lap of submarine movies. I love U-571. I love K-19 Widowmaker. What's some other submarine movies? There's
I don't know.
plenty.
I'm not
there's
an
plenty.
expert on the submarine subgenre.
There's a ton of them, but Das Boot obviously is the best one other than U-571 because I fucking love that movie. One I haven't seen that you've seen, right? You've seen Grave of Fireflies.
Oh, yeah.
I have not seen this movie, and
That's
I feel I'm missing something.
That's like baby's first sad anime movie.
Baby's first sad anime.
Not in a way that's
Princess Mononoke.
Not in a reductive way, because it is a great movie,
Not
but it's just one of those things
Spirited
where
Away?
every one of my generation of anime fans growing up were just have you seen Grave of the Fireflies?
It makes me fucking cry.
First anime thing to make me cry.
I think it deserves to be talked about when we're talking best war movies. So might as well bring it up.
It's about a teenager who takes care of his younger sister after an American firebombing. It takes place during World War II. It's super fucking sad.
Yeah, I think we got to talk about some real quick classics right here because it's been a while since I've seen them, so I can't really go too in depth. But The Great Escape and Great Escape's good. Great,
that's I don't know if it came out yet, but I know Criterion announced that they were doing a Blu-ray for that. I think I was waiting.
They do
for
have
it to come
it. It's
out.
out. Yeah, it's definitely out. And then The Bridge Over River Kwai. I think these are
Ron Swanson's favorite
movie. I think these are. There's a reason why when you talk about the war genre, these obviously come up. There's no. How could you not? These defined a generation of viewers. Of what they thought war was like.
Yeah.
And that's why I think those are so important, and we'll bring them up quickly. Is that these were always the voted best war movies of their time.
We definitely got to bring one up that doesn't seem to want to show its face.
What?
Is one of your favorites? It's Jarhead.
Yes, I don't know why that it's not popping up on these lists more. Jarhead, as a kid, it was one of my favorites, and it's still one of it's in my top 100 list of best / favorite movies. Jarhead it's so fantastic because it tells. I feel like it falls into the same place as Apocalypse Now and Platoon. It's kind of a continuation of that.
If I remember correctly, I think it kind of had like a mixed response when it first came out, and that's probably why you don't see it like on the upper echelon for when war films are mentioned.
Yeah, I think so.
Because people go into that movie wanting a fight.
Yeah, they're like, wow, yeah, like America, go America, you know, like, and when this movie's not about go USA.
It's really not.
No, it's that's why I say it's very much Apocalypse Now, very platoonish in that it's very much an anti-war message and how devastating war can be, not just on your physical body and what you're doing out there in the fucking desert,
but just like, the idea that you're like conditioned for the fight up until that point. So when you get to like the end and you don't really get that sort of like satisfaction, what are you left with?
Yeah, and not only that, but what it can do to your personal life, what it could do to your mind, you know, like, and that's what's so great about Jarhead. I feel like it's so damn effective.
Yeah, that's another Sam Mendes one.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I feel like I'm always a Sam Mendes fan, and I think that this Jarhead is so fantastic at getting to the root of what the Gulf Wars, what the problem with the Gulf Wars were, is that they felt fucking pointless, you know, like, and they were.
I'm going to say it. I think this film didn't do as well because it came out in 2003. Yeah. We were still in kind of like post 9/11,
yeah, we were still
like,
USA,
go America.
USA.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a harsh rebuke of American, like, war machine. It really is. It's like really is like, what are we spending our money on? Like, what exactly are we spending our money on? You know, like, and that's what really that movie's all about. And I love it. I love it. I think it's so gut wrenching, and so so much of it sticks in my head when I talk about when I talk about war movies. I think first off, Sam Mendes is showing off some of his transition strength when he's doing the beginning of the film and describing everything.
You don't get 1917 without Jarhead first.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. You don't get the staggerness of 1917 without like the real jarness of Jarhead. You know, like this really like jarring scariness of what war can be when even if you're not in a battle. You know, like even if you're not rushing into a battle all the time, it's like what happens when you're just hanging out in the desert.
You're just left to stew.
And it's like, and what's so it also brings up what I love about Jarhead is it brings up, it's like I say the personal cost, but like it's really is the cost. It's like, okay, so I gave the military all this time. What did they give me? You know, like what did I get? Like what did we all get from this? You know, like what does this amount to? You know, like basically he ruins his goddamn life to go out there in the desert.
And for what?
You know, like, and that's really what it comes down to. And I think that's what you'll find is our message about these war movies. We're definitely not being like, wow, war movies are great. I think it's better when a war movie is able to be like, this is pointless. Yeah. This is violence against our fellow human being, and that's just pointless. Like, and not worth it. Like, and we talked about Red Sun when they talked about certain people must die for the system to work, but in reality, no. I think it's like if
you lost me.
Yeah, you lost me. Does Hamilton count as a war movie? Yes.
Well, it's not a movie.
Well, yes, it is. It's a film, I would say.
I mean, it sure is a filmed play.
Film play.
Yeah.
It's a war movie.
Like, we haven't gotten, like, the probably going to be shitty, like, actual film adaptation of Hamilton just yet. Probably going to suck.
I don't know if we'll ever get it. How popular this is, I don't know if we'll ever get it.
I mean, that would be the hopeful thing about it.
Yeah, right? Like,
but it wouldn't be the first time that, like, a play was strictly filmed and released separately, but we still got a movie adaptation of it anyway.
But the reason why I bring it up is pretty much the last lines of Aaron Burr at the end of the movie is like, I thought the world wasn't big enough for the two of us, and really it is boundless. It's huge. It's endless. There's plenty of room.
It's definitely, if not about war, definitely about like anti-violence.
Yes.
Because the Revolutionary War does play one bit of that, but then the second half isn't really about that.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely.
It is one aspect.
One aspect of it. Just saying, Hamilton film was fantastic. Deshaun's already seen it three times. I've seen it twice. It's fantastic. Next up is another one of my dad's favorite movies, Master and Commander: The Far Side of the World.
Okay,
what a title!
If you're a nerd for like naval warfare, and like privateer stuff,
this shit's rocking.
Like that's your movie, right?
You might as well put AC/DC on and then throw this movie on, because this movie's just like, like it is something.
It's such a good movie that was clearly trying to be a franchise.
Yeah,
and it was very like critically praised, but it just didn't do well.
Didn't take off.
At some point, I'm definitely going to read the books, because it is based on like a book series.
Really?
I'm definitely going to read those at some point, because there's like no hope of it ever getting a sequel. So I might as well just go to those. And yeah, like solid movie. Just like, I love just the privateer naval stuff. It gives it like a different flavor than you would expect when you think of war films. I generally like Peter Weir's films. He also directed The Truman Show.
Oh, yeah. That's a masterpiece. That's a true masterpiece. I think,
and Dead Poets Society. I think.
Shit. I think we'd be remiss without bringing up Paths of Glory, another Stanley Kubrick. And this is another Stanley Kubrick hard rebuke of war and what it can do to a man and what it can do to truth. You know, like that's what's so fantastic about Paths of Glory, is that it shows how stupid humans are with war, but also what it can do to truth and what justice can mean. You know, like, and I think that's why Path of Glory will forever be one of those great war movies without really having much more in it. You know, like
it definitely doesn't have like the same reverence as like Full Metal Jacket does.
Yeah.
But
absolutely, people aren't.
But definitely has its own. But it definitely has its own point.
I mean, Kirk Douglas is absolutely astounding in that movie. I think he's. I think not only that, but Stanley Kubrick is able to ramp up the tension up to the final scene so well. You know, like it's just so.
Stanley Kubrick has definitely never been one to shy away from tension.
Yeah, right. He's never really shied away from that. I think that's pretty much...
We did cover a lot.
We've covered a lot in this episode. Another funny one that we didn't bring up, we'll bring up quickly. Good Morning Vietnam. I
haven't seen Good Morning Vietnam in a long time.
It's a good... I watched it like 2 years ago or something like that.
That's definitely one for me to revisit.
That's a great movie. First off, Robin Williams is astounding in it, like as he always is. But really, he brings such a levity to such a horrifying situation, and then they're still able to deal with the horrifying situation, you know,
without trying to like dismiss it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's totally worth the witnessing, you know, like absolutely. Oh, I almost forgot about Crimson Tide when we're talking about submarine movies with Gene Hackman, Denzel Washington,
I have not
Tony
seen Crimson
Scott.
Tide.
Fuck. Yeah, I know. It's definitely one of those movies that you have to be like, damn, is that a submarine movie for you to be like,
you were the only one on the planet who I knew back in the 3DS days was playing like the shit out of Steel Diver.
I know. I'm the only person ever to be like, man, where's my Steel Diver sequel on Switch? Like, another. Okay, so I hate to leave it on a shitty note, but there's a movie I cannot stand for being hailed as a great movie. It's fucking War Horse. I don't give a shit about a horse. I just don't give a shit about your horse.
This has like been you pretty much took the words out of my mouth. I don't care about horses.
I don't give a fuck.
I don't have anything against horses. I don't care about horse movies. I don't care what it is.
Yeah,
War
like,
horse.
I'm not like fuck horses when I'm going by horses. But your whole movie pertaining around a horse? No,
I don't care. Like Seabiscuit, War Horse. Black Beauty, Spirit. I don't give a fuck about any of them. I don't care about horses.
Any of them. I don't want your horse movie.
I don't need your horse movie.
I don't need your fucking horse movie. Really, though. It's just like, I just don't care for it, and I don't think we need it. You know, like, and I thought I think Hurt Locker and Warhorse are two of the most overrated like Best Picture nominees of all time. Like,
oh man, the trailer for Warhorse alone was just one of those things where you're just like, oh my god, this is such like obvious Oscar bait that you know they're gonna fall for. Just like, oh, the slow motion where he gallops. And be brave, be brave. I still remember that shit. And then the fact that like it was like drooled over and just like, God, you guys are such easy marks.
Yeah, so easy. So guys, I mean, I won't say any more about Warhorse. I just don't give a shit about your horse. That's a lot of war movies here. I think we've missed a few of obviously Born on the 4th of July, Private Benjamin, Few Good Men. I don't even know if that counts. You know, like there's plenty of war movies.
I would think
here. Of Patton. That one's
Patton's great.
Patton's great.
Yeah, Patton's a lot of fun.
Three Kings. That's a fun one. Not exactly a good one, but a fun one, I would say.
But as far as with Few Good Men is concerned, I would consider that more like a court drama film.
Yeah, exactly.
Than a war film.
Yeah, exactly. But that's pretty much it, guys. If we've missed something, please tweet at us. I'm Frank on Twitter.
I'm Mud Kareka.
And tell us which war movies we missed that we should have brought up.
Because we can't bring up everything.
We can't bring up everything. But obviously, let us know what your favorite war movies are, what the best war movies you think are. If you think Apocalypse Now sucks, let me know.
Or if there's some like stuff that you feel like is overlooked that's like resonated with you that doesn't fall under the like traditional trappings.
Tears of the Sun, maybe. I'm not a huge fan of that movie, but it's a good one.
Yeah, it's a different one.
It's a good one. And it's Bruce Willis being real good too, where you're like, where's that in current Bruce Willis
remember
movies?
when Bruce Willis enjoyed doing movies?
Guys, check us out on every podcast platform you can think of. Please check out our website, Galaxy of Geek, and like our Facebook page, Galaxy of Geek and the Warp Shelf. We would love to hear from you. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope you have a great week.
See you next time.
Adios.